It was the year 1733, on the sun-soaked Caribbean island of St. John, a land known as St. Jan under the Danish rule. This small, green speck in the Caribbean Sea had become an epicenter of brutal slave labor, where people of African descent, primarily from the Akwamu tribe of present-day Ghana, were forced to sweat and toil in the service of Europe's insatiable craving for sugar. As the plantations thrived, the enslaved Africans found themselves in an oppressive reality, outnumbering the white European settlers 5-1, a numerical strength that belied their chains. In this simmering pot of discontent, whispers of resistance began to circulate, setting the stage for an explosive rebellion. Life for the enslaved Africans on the island was a gauntlet of unending hardship. The brutal regimen of forced labor was made even worse by consecutive natural disasters. First, there was a merciless drought, which was then followed by a destructive hurricane. To make matters even worse, the plantations were also devastated by an infestation of crop-destroying insects. These events were not just natural calamities, they set the stage for a turning point in the island's history. In the face of this untenable existence, a plot for rebellion was being carefully hatched. Among the enslaved Africans were several high-ranking Akwamu, who once held positions of power and influence in their homeland. Led by a chieftain known as King June, also known as Kong Juni, these former nobles and warriors began to devise a plan to revolt against the Danish oppressors. Other leaders of the revolt were Okanta, King Bolombo, Prince Akwasi, and Obrafor. They intended to create a free state on the island, a haven for Africans far away from the brutalities of European domination. As the sun rose on November 23, 1733, the enslaved people on the island rose with it. The day had begun like any other, with the enslaved people heading to the plantations for another day of grueling work. However, this day was destined to be unlike any other. The air was thick with anticipation, the tension almost palpable. As the sun climbed in the sky, a single act marked the spark of the rebellion. At Magistrate Johannes Sotman's plantation, hidden knives flashed in the daylight, turning the tables on the oppressors in an unexpected act of defiance. At Coral Bay Fort, a seemingly routine wood delivery by enslaved Africans turned into a scene of chaos and bloodshed. The enslaved Africans, with hidden knives, turned against the soldiers guarding the fort. The soldiers were caught off guard and were swiftly overpowered. The fort was seized and became a stronghold of the rebellion. King June, along with a group of his men, decided to stay at the fort to secure this key position. The remaining rebels fanned out across the island to spread the revolt. News of the rebellion spread quickly across the island, like a gust of wind fanning a raging fire. The shock waves of defiance rocked the plantations, which began to fall one after the other into the hands of the rebels. The ranks of the rebellion swelled as enslaved Africans from different tribes were emboldened to join the cause. The goal of the rebellion was crystal clear: freedom from the oppressive Danish rule, self-governance, and control of the plantations. However, the path to freedom was not an easy one. Some plantation owners put up a fierce resistance, refusing to cede their land without a fight. The Jansen family, with the support of their loyal enslaved people, resisted the rebellion at their plantation in Cinnamon Bay. They managed to retreat to a boat and escape to Durlow's plantation nearby, eluding the grip of the rebellion. At Durlow's, the defiant planters managed to repel the attack by the rebels. These minor victories offered a brief respite in the wake of the rebellion. The temporary lull allowed many families to escape the island, seeking refuge in the neighboring island of St. Thomas. Despite these setbacks, the rebellion was far from over. For months, the rebels continued their fight for freedom, expanding their control over the island. It seemed for a time that the dream of the Akwamu, a free state run by Africans, might become a reality. However, this dream was not destined to last. Help arrived for the besieged planters in April 1734 from a distant land. Responding to the Danish calls for aid, French colonists from Martinique sailed to St. John, bringing with them hundreds of French and Swiss troops. These troops, armed with superior firepower, began to change the tide of the rebellion. Over the course of a month, the combined forces of the French, Swiss, and remaining Danish planters slowly regained control of the island. The formidable resistance of the rebels began to falter under the pressure of the superior forces. On the 23rd of May 1734, Kong Juni, his wife and other rebels enjoyed their last meal in the bay called Newfound Bay. They killed each other by slitting their throats. When it was time for King June's wife to take her own life, she said to her husband, "I lack the courage and cannot do it." At which time King June cut her throat, and finally with the same knife he cut his own throat. The dream of a free Akwamu state was extinguished with the death of King June. The rebellion left deep scars on the island. Many Akwamu rebels lost their lives, others were recaptured and sold back into slavery. The white planters, their faith in St. John shaken by the rebellion, began to abandon the island in favor of the nearby island of St. Croix. Yet, despite the tragic end of the rebellion, the events of 1733 sparked a slow march towards change. It ignited a flame that would continue to burn in the hearts of enslaved Africans across the Caribbean.